48. Look good for 48, right? Shit.
I try. I try.
So, Roy, you've led a good life.
I don't know if I go as far as saying it's been a good life up to now, but I've had an extravagant one at times. You know,
Okay.
it's been wealthy at times, but I wouldn't say it's been a good life. So.
No. Let's maybe go back. Let's go back to 13 years old. Where were you?
Well, that takes me back to my hometown, Toronto, from Regent Park, Toronto, Ontario.
So does that mean you're West Indian descent then?
No, I'm not West Indian descent. My father actually comes from Nova Scotia,
Okay.
and
Oh.
so it's that direction. Actually, my grandparents are some of the first landed in Ontario through the Underground Railroad at that time. And
So you probably are West Indian. You probably are.
I don't think so. I think I would know.
Dominican. I think so.
Yeah.
So you're 13 years old, and you're going to school. Are you in school at 13?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to Queen Alexandra. It's a public school in Toronto. And went on to Danforth Tech, I think it was. And went to a community college, Humber College.
Wow.
Then I had to drop out for a while because I got an instant family. I had 3 children and a wife. So.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, had an instant family at a very young age, and then was divorced at a very young age too. And it was shortly after that that I came out to BC.
So your life back in Toronto was normal.
Normal for me at the time. I don't know if you'd call it normal. It was pretty tough area to grow up in. Well, of course, it's Toronto's toilet. Basically,
Yeah.
Noted as one of the roughest, baddest areas compared to, like, say, Harlem, New York or something. I guess that's the Harlem of Ontario.
Ontario.
At that time,
Predominantly black.
actually, no, it was pretty multicultural. A lot of everybody, and that was one thing these days I appreciate. That it wasn't so dominated, by certain groups. But as of course we know, it's growing into that slowly.
Yeah.
Where everybody's kind of sectioned off type of thing. But
So what was life like back then? Like, what was it like? Were you lower income?
yeah, it was lower income. Not all throughout. I'd say middle class, pretty much. Everything was always taken care of. We never really lacked in anything. It wasn't a dumpy way of living, and it wasn't a rich way of living. But as you can see, we grew up healthy. My brothers grew up healthy. I have a good mother and father.
Okay, you still talk to mom and dad?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Are they still together?
They're still together, and they're in their 70s,
Okay.
getting quite old. But they're not involved in drugs or anything. They've never, they weren't drug addicts. They're just completely square. You know what I mean?
Straight.
Yeah.
Like me.
Okay. Like me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah.
So you had a wife and kids, and you divorced.
Yeah.
Was that a traumatic point for you, or did you always dabble into the drug trade, or?
Yeah, I've pretty much been a drug dealer most of my life, but it wasn't quite on the scale it was in recent years.
Okay.
I grew up starting off with smoking weed and dabbling in that, and I just happened to meet people at that time at a young age for lots of weed, lots of pounds, and so I dealt in a lot of pounds of weed.
Okay.
At that time, it was like $500 to $800 a pound.
Yeah.
Where you had to get a record album and then slide it up the record album and all the seeds.
It was all pressed.
Yeah, you get like an ounce of seeds out of 2 ounces of weed, right? But it was the way I knew how to make money. It was quick. It wasn't rich by any means, but I always had money. But yeah, back to my ex-wife. Yeah, it was pretty traumatic because I was a drug addict at that time.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I was into weed at first, but then I experimented with everything, and it got really deep. And my ex-wife gave me an ultimatum at that time, back when I was like 24, and basically said, do you want your family or do you want drugs? And it was like, I want my family, but I can't quit. And it was shortly after that I ended up going to jail for some stupid charges, driving under suspension or something like that. And it was just for a short period of time, and then I got out of jail, and she was gone. She had packed up the house and left. And so I was devastated, kind of laid on the floor for a couple of days, and threatened to kill myself and do this to win her back, but she didn't come back. So with that being said, it was kind of the worst and the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the worst because I lost my family, my wife and my 3 kids, but I quit drugs. Okay. And it was like, like black and white. Yeah. So she never came back, and I never went back to drugs. Okay. And I guess it was about 5 years after that I came to BC.
And so you landed in BC, and what happened? I mean, maybe we should talk a little bit about let's go reverse, right? Who was Roy McCormick 5 years ago?
Well, I like to believe I was one of the biggest, baddest drug dealers that ever lived, but I wouldn't say that. But I was doing pretty good.
Okay.
I was doing pretty good. And I say that because I didn't do drugs. Yeah. So it was easy to be clear-minded and to be to be motivated. Yeah. And
what was your motivation?
Money. Money. Yeah. Money and just money. Yeah. I think that's most of it.
That's yeah. Well, some people get in it because it's a way of life, and it's a way of living, and it's easy, and it's all they know. Yeah. Right. So
I kind of picked that up during the time of being a drug dealer, and that's one of the things that really kept me involved, because there's times that I'd go to certain families' houses, and the whole family's involved in this drug trade. I mean, we got a 9-year-old girl coming to the door, answering the door, saying, "Come on in." Grandpa's upstairs cutting and mixing, you know what I mean? And then the grandmother's in the living room with a money counter, and then the son is on the phone telling the other guys to line up around the block until this customer's done. Yeah. And the whole family's doing this, and it seems so normal. Natural. And it's not the only family, it's family after family after family. And these people don't do drugs.
Yeah. And they don't get caught.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as that. I mean, there's 2 things always coming down the pipe, right? There's bad people and there's police. And they're going to get caught by one or the other eventually. That's my take on it now, although I didn't know that then, nor did I think about it then. I kind of felt untouchable, because I wasn't on the streets. I wasn't in the front lines.
What would you say you were at the peak of your career? Mm-hmm. We might call it that.
Sure, I'd call it a criminal career. Yeah.
What level were you? Were you the people that you see on the news getting shot? Bindi Joe Hall, the Dosanjhs, the Rise, the Singaras?
I don't know how I could compare like that. I can't really compare like that. All I could say is that, at the top of my game, I was doing maybe 30 keys a week.
A week?
Yeah.
Motherfucker. A week?
Yeah,
okay.
A week, yeah.
All right, holy shit.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is the difference with these guys that are getting shot and this and this and that, they're stepping outside the circle.
Yes.
And I had a pretty tight knit of people that I was comfortable with. We didn't need guns. We didn't need to front. We didn't need to worry. Here's a box of money. Here's a box of bricks. Yeah. And I could drive home, and by the time I got home, I could get on the phone and say, "Listen, you were short 10 grand on that." Oh, and they'd say, "Okay, I'll send it next time." Yeah. You know what I mean? And everything was hunky-dory. We're all sipping tea. Everything's nice. Yeah. But of course, it's not like that anymore. So that kind of changed around 2000, right? Like we've talked about so many times. It was a big shift. And, you know, I say that in a figurative way, but I mean, I swear I actually felt that change that came about in the turn of the millennium. Right? And it was a turn for the negative of distrust, and no loyalty, and ambitious, young, violent people that just don't care, and tighter cliques, younger people working together, you know.
So, if you could give a message to a child, say 13 years old, watching this, listening to, or maybe just finished watching New Jack City, which is my corrupted video, what would you say? Give them the story. Give them the story.
I'd say it's not gonna work. You know, it only works for a short period of time, and you know, it's so glamorous on music videos and rap singers and stuff, and everybody's pumping up all this bling and this is the way of life, and it's cool to be a 9mm kid, and it's cool to be a tough guy. But it's not cool at all. You know what I mean? It's not cool at all, especially when you're a victim. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it takes for us to be victims before we realize what it's like to be the assailant, to be the one that's doing that. You know what I mean? Like, for so long in my life, I was always the guy to come and get you, and have everybody fear me. You know what I mean? And I don't worry about a thing. But then when the tables turn and there's people coming to get me and hurt me, and say, hey, wait a minute, this don't feel good. You know, but it takes that to realize, you know, the both sides of the fence. So I would say, you know, stay in school, you know, get an education.
How has it changed you? How has it changed the kind person inside of you?
I think a lot more about other people now, where I didn't really care about other people before. You see, I had a system, a justification system. I knew how to justify what I was doing for myself. So I remember.
Example.
I'm going to give you one. I remember being in front of a judge, and it was for, I think it was 4 ounces, or a small amount, when I was just coming up. Yeah. And before the sentencing, the judge asked me, he says, you have anything to say? And I said, well, yeah, I do. I have this to say. If a man goes to a liquor store and buys Crown Royal, a 40-pounder Crown Royal, leaves, drinks the Crown Royal, runs over 2 people on the way home, goes home, punches out his wife, kills her, ends up in jail, do you come back to the liquor store and arrest the teller? No, you don't do that. Or if a gun store, if a man goes into a gun shop and buys a gun, he can be legal, have all the certificates of paper to show he legally buys a gun, goes home, shoots his wife and shoots himself. Do you go back to the gun store and charge the person that sold him the gun? No. So that was my justification, is that, okay, I'm a drug dealer. I have all these drugs. I sell them, of course. But you want to turn and blame me for being the cause of all that, the violence and the crimes that are going on in the community, the people that are doing home invasions, the people that are killing each other out there for the money, the people that are doing the actual crime that's hurting people. You can't come to me and say it's my fault, because I'm responsible. I don't do drugs. You know what I mean? I'm not a bad person. I've got family. I've got children around me all the time. I'm living a normal life. To me, it felt normal. I'm traveling, and you know, everything seems quite regular, except for the fact that my line of business is selling drugs and not selling whatever. The problem that comes with that nowadays, that I'm a little bit more wiser, a little bit more older, a little bit more experienced, is that we owe it to each other to be responsible for each other. It was a hard thing for me to get past. How much responsibility do I have for you? How responsible for you should I extend myself? Because like in Corrections Canada, we just learned that to be responsible for us, to be responsible for the way we feel, all our actions, our crimes, our whatever we do, to be responsible.
For you.
Right. So in that education, in that knowledge, well, then you're supposed to be responsible for you.
Yes.
So I don't need to be responsible for you.
Okay.
But we do.
Yeah.
Because it comes down to when you learn how to love yourself and you experience that, then that kind of spreads out.
Yeah.
And I want you to love me the way I love you. And the only way I can do that is care about you.
Exactly.
So nowadays, the experience of being a drug addict has helped me immensely, of course, because I realize now what I was putting out and what it was actually doing to people. And you want me to go tell them to turn it on?
Yeah, I think so, eh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Damn, we were just like
Hold
getting
that
right
spot.
in there too. Just getting there. Right? You were talking about responsibility, caring.
Yeah. So I mean, like, after you experience being a drug addict, and being a successful drug dealer, being drug free, to being an unsuccessful drug dealer, broke and an addict, and doing whatever crimes you need to do to supply your habit, kind of wakes you up to, I truly believe nowadays in you reap what you sow. I truly believe that so much. So knowing that, yeah, I don't want to poison my brothers. I don't want to poison anybody. I don't want to do anything like what has happened to me. You know what I mean? If anything, I want to be completely supportive and help and see people blossom and grow. Right?
How did you learn about love?
How did I learn about love? It was a long process. Long process. Searching.
Where? Was it in prison?
It started in prison, but I had so many unanswered questions for myself. I think it started with my ex-wife, to be honest.
Yeah.
She was a strong Jehovah's Witness at the time, and she kind of installed in me to be a searcher, to be a truth searcher, to be a truth seeker.
Yes.
And so I pretty much always have been that way, looking for answers, reading the Bible, reading other books, metaphysical books and stuff. And then as I got lots of money from drug dealing, I was able to travel all around the world. Well, not quite all around the world, but to places like India and Rome, and Italy, Mexico, where I was able to gather more information, and it hasn't really been till recently, in the last few years or so, that things have been coming together for me to get the whole spectrum of everything. You know what I mean?
When's your birthday?
May the 6th.
May. That makes you what sign?
I'm a Taurus.
Taurus. Okay.
You're not gonna read my tea leaves next or something like that.
So this is a journey for me too, right? It's a journey for me as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know you, and we've had our differences or our friendship. We've shared life together. Yeah.
So, in jail, what was that like?
Well, I'll tell you, for anybody that wants to live a life of crime, they might want to come to BC and go to jail. It's not too bad.
Really?
It's not too bad a place to be out here compared to Toronto. You know what I mean? Not that I'm saying, hey, it's fun in jail out here, because no jails are fun. But, I guess the longest I've been in jail was 4 years, right? So, and that was for 2 keys and 2 guns.
4 years you got for that? That's it?
No, I got 7 years for that, but I did 4 years.
Wow.
I did a 1.5 years dead time,
Okay.
and then I got a 5-year, 6-month term on top of that for that.
Wow.
And but I mean, truly, it wasn't as It wasn't as hard as, you know, jails back in Toronto and the time that I've done. I've been in and out of jail almost all my life. Right?
In total, how many years have you done in jail?
Wow. Well,
Longest stint was 4 years.
yeah, the longest straight time was 4 years. Actually, 3 years, out for a bit, back for a year. So, but before that, it started with 3 days, the first time I ever went to jail. Then that turned into 30 days, and then 3 months, and 6 months, and 9 months, and 9 months, and 6 months, and 9 months, 6 months. You know, always times like that. And managed to graduate myself to gladiator school, they say. But is what it is. Actually, I mean, there's a lot to learn in the penitentiaries. I mean,
About yourself?
about yourself, yeah. Because the difference between provincial and federal is that in provincial, you're in jail and you're doing your time. You're going to get out and you leave. In federal, it's psychological warfare. You know what I mean? They get into your head. You're doing psychological tests. You're doing this, and
Really?
and everything's a psychological fight. You know what I mean? So I thought. But after being there for years and going through, I'll call it the reflection.
Yeah.
It's okay. So yeah, I mean, being in federal and being in psychological, there's some really good programs in there. Now, when I was there, I didn't really look at it that way. I looked at it, you know, as how can I get out of jail as quick as possible, you know, and you know, people that will guide you that are in there and say, okay, you have to jump through this hoop, you got to jump through this hoop, you got to do this program, do that, and you know what I mean.
Okay.
And so that's what I began to do. But slowly but surely, the programs that were offered in there were actually intense, deep programs that were very, very beneficial. And I almost kind of regret not taking full advantage of it by paying closer attention and taking it a little bit more serious. You know what I mean? You're in jail and whatever. You know what I mean? But I still listened. And as time moved forward, I was able to take those things that I picked up and apply them and see the truth to them and build from that, you know, and become a better individual for it. Right? Violence prevention program, violent offender programs, COG skills, life skills.
Do you think you were a violent offender? Are you a violent person?
I was.
Are you?
No. Not now. I believe myself to be a very loving person now, and but don't get me wrong, I could still be violent. You know what I mean?
But I always saw you as good.
Well, thank you. I mean, well,
Yeah.
it's treat each other how we treat. By no means am I trying to be a saint.
No.
I will. I punch you.
Yeah.
No problems. You know what I mean? Like if it comes down, if you step across the line and you want to do that, okay, well I'm in, right? But I always feel bad. I mean, I've been a doorman for a long time when I first came out here. You know, I wasn't doing good, just working, and knocked out quite a few people. You know what I mean? But again, you know, and learning, you know, going through that kind of experience, you know, you hurt people, you know what I mean? And now it's not so easy for me anymore. You know, I don't like to hurt people. And even if a line is crossed and they do get hurt, I mean, I feel
The second thought.
I feel terrible. And not only that, on the flip side, I'm so afraid of killing somebody, you know, in a fit of anger. You know what I mean? It could be over something stupid, and you can simply just punch somebody in the head. They fall down, they hit their head, and they're dead, and there goes your life. You know what I mean? Whatever it be, 4 years or a life sentence, don't matter. You're still gone. Plus, you got to live with that on your conscience. You know what I mean? So I try to avoid violence as much as I can. I have no problems in bowing in, and bowing in, like. I mean, incidences happen all the time where, I mean, it's clear that I could beat this person up if I want to. And I take advantage of that by not beating him up, but by trying to set an example, say that, hey, can you forgive me? I didn't mean to come across you if I intimidated you or scared you, because I've learned that sets me free and it keeps me healthy. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not always an easy thing to do because there's peer pressure all the time. You know, if you back down from somebody, then peer pressure is going to say, "Oh, yeah, pussy, you chicken, you know what I mean?" And for some people, that's hard to deal with, right? It's still hard for me to deal with if I had to contend with that kind of